Welcome to Natural Habitat Adventures, Daily Dose of Nature. I'm your host, Sunny Vanderstar. Today's topic is Know Before You Go, New Zealand Nature Explorer. And it will be presented by our fabulous NatHab expedition leader, Judy McKenzie. Judy, thank you so much for being here today. There are a lot of folks, including myself, that are super excited to go down to New Zealand with you for the next hour. So let's go ahead and dive in.
Oh, fantastic. Kia ora, everyone. It's early morning here, but for some of you, it will be the afternoon. Very welcome to our webinar. Very excited about sharing this with you. I also have my daughter-in-law, Paula, who is technician beside me here and has organised the tours here in New Zealand. She's our go-to person here. Plus, she's put together a North Island pre-tour, which we're very excited about, and I'll talk about that later. So New Zealand for millions of years, also called Aotearoa, remained isolated and partially submerged. And when it did emerge as its own continent, Zealander, its unique geology history has shaped its breathtaking landscapes and its tectonic plate movement and glaciation. One of these highlights is Milford Sound, which we explore on a private boat cruise. This day is a very early start because we get in there before the masses of people. They get a million visitors yearly into Milford. It's a pretty spectacular place. So we head off very early, and it's one of our longest days of travel, which I will talk about later, but it's so worth getting in there when it's so nice and quiet. New Zealand has also resulted from its isolation with unique wildlife, although it has been affected by predators which were introduced in the 19th century. Stoats, one of the worst, weasels, ferrets, and a common bushtail possum, which we'll talk about on the trip as well. There is a lot of work going on trying to eradicate these predators. But it is an ongoing problem. New Zealand is saying by 2050 they would like to eradicate them all, but we will see whether that actually happens. During the tour, we will have the opportunity to spot dolphins, seals, lions, sea lions, penguins, kiwi, takahe, albatross, a giant weta, which is an insect that freezes over 80% of its body and survives, and many other fascinating creatures. We will also spend 2 nights on a high country farm station. We'll learn about high country farming practices from the local farmer. And also we do a lot of bird sighting recordings of particularly the yellow-eyed penguins. So the penguins, the yellow-eyed penguins are only here for the first few tours in October and November. We're just having a wee technical problem here, trying to bring up our... Oh, okay, so we'll go, sorry, now we're starting with the slides. Sorry, this is us getting used to it. The first time we're doing it. So this is a picture of course, of me. I was a nurse and did a lot of traveling overseas, coming from right down south, which I'm very passionate about that area, and you will love seeing Stewart Island and down the Catlins. I joined NatHab in 2014. We also have another guide, which he started last year, and this is Sam. He's great. He's had a brilliant season. He was with DOC, Department of Conservation, for a number of years. So very informative and a fabulous guy. We are having he's having a great season. We're working well together, and we alternate tours, the two of us. So okay, so this is the overview of what we're going to talk about today. This, if you want to take a picture of that, you're welcome to, but this is what we'll be going through, especially the packing list, letting you know what to bring due to our weather, etc. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're also called Aotearoa, which in the Maori language is the land of the long white cloud. It's ever changing. Our tectonic plate is moving, which is down our west coast, where we spend a lot of time, and it's quite a remote area. Excellent lodges there, and in the center of our trip, coming towards the end, where we're at 2 wilderness lodges, which are absolutely amazing, and I can guarantee you'll just be blown away by these remote areas, but fantastic. Okay, we are very well known as kiwis, after our kiwi bird, our unique kiwi bird, and also our kiwi fruit is named after them, which has a sort of fluffy exterior to the kiwi fruit. We actually have this on our tour because it's very good for you. We buy quite a lot of the food, especially on Stewart Island, where it is a little bit more challenging down there with our breakfast. So I actually buy breakfast to take over there. A very proud nation. We have a unique accent which adds to our charm. You might have trouble understanding us at times. We have a few mantras which capture our easygoing attitudes, where we say sweet as and no worries. And the further south you go, the friendlier it gets. Oh, while we're a rugby nation, right at present, you might have been seeing that we have the FIFA World Cup being held here, which is, and in Australia, first time here. However, the Rugby World Cup is going to be in Paris from September the 8th to October the 28th, which will ignite rugby fever in New Zealand. Our first 2 tours this season, these will be on, so you will have us being pretty excited about it. So we'll now go on to the weather. Okay, you can see here there's a range of different temperatures, and actually we can get 4 seasons in one day. Last year on our first tour, we were at Larnax Castle and we had to put chains on. There was snow, so that was in October, and our driver was amazing getting us safely out of there. So with it being very seasonal, you need to bring layers. And you've got our averages temperatures showing up there on the screen. Also, our sun can be very harsh or incredibly harsh. We have a big hole in the ozone layer, and sunburn can occur in 15 minutes, even on cloudy days. So good sun protection is essential. We do carry some on the van with us as well. The West Coast, where we spend 3 days, is known for one of the wettest regions in New Zealand. So good waterproof rain jackets, light rain jackets. I actually carry 2 with me. So, which means now we'll go on to our packing list. So here is a good a list of what you should bring with you. It's also, you do get a little booklet of information which all this is in as well. The one nice outfit is optional. That's on our last evening. We do quite a special meal at a home-hosted dinner, and you're quite welcome to wear whatever you like, but some people like to bring just one outfit that is maybe not your traveling outfits for hiking, etc., which you can see here. Quite a few warm socks, because we do, there is laundry facilities at all the places except on Stewart Island. They are mostly coin operated laundries, except for when we get to the 2 wilderness lodges. Now they have fantastic facilities that are free, so everybody tries to hold off till we get to day 7 and 8. And then at the following, when we're on the 2nd wilderness lodge, before leaving to leave out of Christchurch, we also have those facilities again. We also get sandflies, so it's quite, on the West Coast in particular, which is quite important to have long socks up under your pants, gloves, covering yourself, long sleeve shirts and pants, etc., so that they can't get at you. We do carry sandfly repellent with us as well. So the additional items We're up on now. You can see on here, your sun hat's important, water bottles. We carry water with us, so we fill them up all the time. We don't use plastic water bottles, of course. Your sunglasses. Now, the headlamps on here, a red light option. When we're out kiwi watching at night, when we're out at night, you want the red light option. It's quite important because the bright light can damage the kiwi's eyes. I also take you on a second kiwi experience for those who want to, and that light's quite important to take out that night. It's if you don't have it, it doesn't matter, because on our scheduled kiwi experience, the guide has all those lights. And then I will have one with me when we do our own one. Anything else on there? Reusable waterproof bags. That's quite handy for your camera. We do get a lot of rain, as mentioned before. Sunscreen, lip balm. Now, hairdryer is optional because they do have different standards of hairdryers in all accommodation. Hiking poles. We do have a few hiking poles we carry ourselves, but if you have collapsible ones you're used to, that can fit in your bags, they're handy to bring. Okay, so we have a very unique environment, and our biodiversity is crucial. So to make sure of smooth entry into New Zealand, you can actually, from August, you can do online the biodiversity immigration and customs details. The other one, the NZETA, is done before you leave your country. That should be done. It can take 72 hours to process, so you should do it at least 4 days beforehand. And be very aware, we are very strict with a high of $400, I think it is, a fee if you bring food in. Anything that's any produce that you have with you, you should, well, get rid of it on the plane if you're carrying anything before you enter New Zealand. We are very, very strict. And also with your hiking gear as well, you've best to have washed your boots to make sure there's no seeds or any soil on them, and your hiking poles. If you're carrying them, they'll ask you to declare them, and they'll have a quick look. If you keep them somewhere handy on the top of your luggage, that can smooth coming through customs. They'll have a quick look, and if need be, they'll give them a spray and return them to you in a plastic bag. So now we're going into the Auckland airport, where you'll most likely transit for your international arrival, unless you're doing the extension tour in the North Island prior to the main trip. The domestic is a 10-minute walk away from the international, or there's a 15-minute little shuttle bus, free shuttle bus, that will take you to the domestic. There will be, if you are doing the pre-tour, there will be somebody waiting for you at where you collect your baggage with a NatHab sign and your name's on. So that's quite smooth. So now we're off to Dunedin, if you're coming into Dunedin. So even though on the screen it does have, it used to be an international arrival and a duty-free area, that isn't there any longer. There's no international flights in to Dunedin. That stopped after when COVID happened. So it's pretty easy there. It's a small airport. If you're coming for Christchurch, you will be there'll be a sign waiting for you as you come into the airport. If you're coming from another flight, you'll be coming down some escalator stairs, and your representative, who will have a NatHab sign, will be waiting for you there. Now the lithium batteries and luggage. Air New Zealand in particular are very strict about this. You can't have it in your luggage. You must have it as carry-on, any batteries. You also have to watch your weight limits, especially Stewart Island. You need a small soft-sided bag, which can't be more than 33 pounds. It's because the little plane is quite small. Your main luggage will stay, the driver doesn't come over to Stewart Island, so your main luggage will be secure and safe with him. It's just the smaller bag. So quite ideal if you do have a smaller bag, or if you're traveling with a small bag that is only 33 pounds, you'll be fine to take that to Stewart Island. So soft-sided bags, as I mentioned. Also, it's really handy. You'll get NatHab luggage tags. Really handy to have those. If you're using a separate Stewart Island bag, I have extra that I can give you, so that is labelled as well, if you haven't got a label for that. So in Dunedin, if you arrive in Dunedin prior to the day of the main tour and staying at a NatHab pre-night hotel, transport to the hotel will be arranged for you. So as I said, when you locate your luggage in the Dunedin, when you come into the Dunedin terminal, as you come down the escalator, there will be a representative holding an airport sign for you, unless it's a flight from Christchurch. Now, when you arrive, you will receive, if you're arriving pre-night hotel, you will arrive, there'll be a letter on check-in explaining the pickup time and transportation for day one of the tour. You have to be ready for the hotel pickup at 2 p.m. and we will collect you and take you up to Larnax Castle. And then you have the opportunity to participate in the optional afternoon tour of seeing albatross and penguins out on the Dunedin Peninsula. If you're under your own arrangements and not staying at a NatHab pre-night hotel, you will need to make your own arrangements out to Larnax Castle. But if you can get there, around 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, because we have a departure at 3:30 to go out on our peninsula tour to see the albatross and the penguins, or no later than 7 p.m. for dinner. On arrival into Dunedin, as I said, on day one of the tour, you will be transported to Larnax Castle. And also on the departure day, just talking about departures, on day 12, you will have transport to the Christchurch airport arranged for you. If you're staying on in the hotel and going some days later, you will also have transport organised for you back to the airport, and times of pickup will be advised by Sam or I. If you've booked post-tour nights at NatHab Hotel in Christchurch and leaving a few days later, you'll also have transport back to the airport. If you're under your own arrangements from day 12, then you'll need to make your own transport arrangements. And you'll be free to depart on day 12 at any time of the day. If you find yourself in Dunedin pre-tour and a few days beforehand, it's quite a lovely little town. It's a university town. It's only got about 120,000 people there. There's a lot of interesting places that we can tell you or give you prior that you might want to miss, such as the iconic Dunedin railway station, which has been one of the most photographed places in the Southern Hemisphere. Challenge yourself hiking out Baldwin Street, known as the steepest street in the world. The museum, the Dunedin Museum is remarkable. Then, as I mentioned, the university campus, there's a beautiful bluestone historic buildings that you can wander through, which is near the Botanic Gardens, which the eastern rosella, which is a pretty little bird which was introduced into Dunedin from Australia in 1910, is known to be found there, which we won't find anywhere else on our tour. There's also about 40 different species half of them being over native in those gardens. So that's a lovely walk. There's also a couple of breweries that are well known. The Emerson one, which is a deaf brewer, is famous for its pulsar. Then you have also Spates, which has been brewed for over 100 years there and does a wonderful little tour. Actually, it's 141 years they've been brewing that beer there. And you'll see it all through the South Island, pretty well known beer. There's also in the centre of the Octagon, Robbie Burns statue there, and that's quite an interesting place to find with some old historic churches and things. Now for transportation, this is our vehicle, which is very comfortable, air-conditioned, 17-seater. At the moment, they're 2019 vans, but currently right at this point, we're having a brand new one which is being made and sitting in Germany on its way shortly to New Zealand to be fitted out, especially inside for our tours. Also 17-seater, but we're moving the bulkhead back so there will be more leg room. We carry a trailer with us, which is locked and secured, and then inside we have overhead little shelves to put your gear in. So wonderful drivers that we have with us as well, who are really knowledgeable as well and very comfortable. We do have a couple of very long days in the vehicle, which there's 6-hour drive times. It's 2 of those, but we do lots of stops on the way of interesting places. So very experienced drivers who ensure smooth and safe journey as we negotiate New Zealand scenic drives. They'll be broken up a lot of the time. There is the only way that we can, apart from flying into Dunedin, our little short flight to Stewart Island, we have to take roads due to the remoteness of the areas that we're going to. The scenic flight to Stewart Island is fabulous. It's only 20 minutes compared with the boat journey over. If we have weather issues, which has only happened twice in the whole time I've been guiding the tours, we do have to come back by the boat, which does take an hour. But it's a 20-minute short flight over, small fixed wing, and carrying up to 9 passengers. So very small. There's a photo of it there and coming over into Stewart Island, which is just, Stewart Island is one of my, I just absolutely adore it there. Coming from down south, I've spent a lot of time there as a child, and it's an incredible place, and where we get to see our kiwi, which there's over 20,000 of them on this island. There is no stoats that can swim that far, so the population there is doing quite well. And we have 2 opportunities, nighttime opportunities, to see them. So our journey, as you can see, this is the South Island. We're over 3/4 of it, starting down here on the Otago Peninsula, heading down the scenic route, which is avoiding the main highway right down through Invercargill, flying over to Stewart Island. So 1 night in Dunedin, 2 nights in Stewart Island, going up round the coastline, another scenic on the edge of Fiordland National Park, into Te Anau, where we have 1 night. Now the 1 night in Te Anau, this is when we have the early start the next morning. We're out the door at 6 a.m. so we can beat the traffic into Milford Sound and have our own private boat for just under 2-hour journey in Milford Sound itself. We come back out, this is our first big day, we come back out of Milford Sound, back through Te Anau, and then we do hit the main highway going up through the outskirts. We don't go into Queenstown, it is very touristy. You will see the lake, which is beautiful, and then we will head out through a little historic town called Arrowtown, a gold mining town, up through over a 3,000-foot climb through Cadrona and over to Wanaka, where we'll be 2 nights again. At 2 nights in Wanaka, we are there to see the buff weka, which has been extinct off the mainland for 120 years, 120, 30 years. It's on this little island doing very well, that is pest free, and we take a 30-minute, another private boat ride on the lake out to this little island where we have a hike, one of our first serious hikes, which is up 600 feet to a beautiful lake which overlooks the main lake of Wanaka. Then from there, we have a drive up through the Mount Aspiring National Park on one side into the Westland National Park, up to our first beautiful lodge, Lake Meraki, where they generate their own power. We're off the grid in there. Internet can be a bit, it's better than it was, but it's not fast. So we spend 2 nights in there where we do some other hikes for the first October, November into about the 7th of December. They all depart the Fiordland crested penguin about the same time, and they spend 75% of their time out at sea, coming back in June to nest again. And we see them on those first couple of months tour. We do get the opportunity to maybe see some, again, out of those months that are sick over on the Otago Peninsula. There's a rehab centre there. And I've also seen a snares penguin there that has been sick and is being rehabbed there. So on our first day, when we go out to the Otago Peninsula and see the yellow-eyed penguin, which is the rarest penguin in the world, they nest in the forests here. They're here all year round. They're not like the Fiordland crested that nests and then is out at sea for 75% of the time. So that Otago Peninsula for seeing the penguins and plus the blue penguins is really important. Lake Meraki is where we'll see the yellow-eyed penguins and the yellow Fiordland crested penguins, in the wild where they nest. From there, we're heading up through glacial country with the Southern Alps on our right-hand side as we drive up the coastline through Hokitika. This is our second largest drive day of 6 hours into Arthur's Pass, which is, as you come back through over towards Christchurch, it's just right in the centre there. At the Wilderness Lodge where we have the farm tours, etc., plus hiking. Then we carry on, we have our last night in Christchurch. So our accommodation, Larnax Castle, was built in 1871. It is our only castle in New Zealand. It's unique, it's beautiful, it's got a lot of history. We're staying in a lodge on the side of the castle there that you just can't quite see. In the castle itself is where we have our welcome dinner, and there'll be a pre-presentation going through the whole tour. Plus every night on the tour, I'll be reminding you each day of what's happening the next day and weather, etc. Beautiful castle. Then this is the Wilderness Lodge in Arthur's Pass, which is unique as well. So we're up high. But we also have a selection of accommodations. So Stewart Island, we're in a motels, which are self-catering, and this is where I do the breakfasts for you. Well, supply the breakfasts for you. And then Tianau, we're in Distinction Hotel, so it's back to a hotel, plus Wanaka. Now, Edgewood has been our hotel, which is now being renovated, so we will be at Oakridge, which is just slightly on the outskirts of Wanaka. Edgewater was down on the lake itself, which we'll be going back to once it's going to take a year or so to renovate the Edgewater Hotel. Then the Lake Meraki and Arthur Pass Wilderness Lodges, and then back to our hotel right in the centre of Christchurch for location in Christchurch. There's some photos of the different accommodations that we'll have. Okay, so on to meals. All meals are included on the tour. We have opportunity to sample a variety of New Zealand cuisine, fresh food, and we've got casual to lodge dinners. This photo here is a special little spot as we're traveling up to Lake Meraki from Wanaka called Jackson's Bay, which is a fishing village and where we experience beautiful fresh seafood. And mostly they have crayfish, which is like gold in New Zealand to get. Most of us are exported, and this is where we get the opportunity, as long as the boat's been able to get out and fish and dive for it. We do have water available on the van for topping up bottles. We include soft drinks, hot beverages, right through, and teas and coffees right through the trip, but alcoholic beverages are at your own expense. On our last night, we have a home hosted dinner, which is rather special in Christchurch. So we have, so fitness wise on the tour, we do cater. We have had people that haven't had the required level of fitness, but we have very good driver guides that are on tour with us, so we can always separate the group. And I've done that on a number of occasions, so people that haven't missed out on things. Our tour, this top photograph is Moahu Island. This is where we climb up a pretty rocky track in places, well formed but rocky track, so where we need good hiking boots, good nice light but ankle supported boots. And we're up 600 feet to get this beautiful view of a lake on a lake. You can see the little lake in the background and then the Lake Wanaka behind. We see this is where we see the buff weka that I spoke of. The boat trip is 20 minutes, private boat trip, 20 minutes out and back. The other hikes are taken at a casual pace, but I have had some requests for people to do a harder hike. Wilderness Lodge at Arthur's Pass is where the opportunity to do 4-hour hikes is available. We have an afternoon off there that I take people to a place called the Punch Bowl, which is a beautiful 300-step hike up to a lovely waterfall. Those who want to do other hikes, there are hikes around the lodge itself if they want to do their own or they want to relax. We have actual 3 afternoons where we have free, and I always offer alternative things to do like kayaking or hiking, or you can relax and do your washing or whatever else, so it's totally up to what the guests feel like. We have a scheduled kayaking, which the photograph below is of, and this is at Lake Pearson, where we have Australasian grebes. They're quite rare in New Zealand, and these kayaks are very safe and sturdy. Single ones, and on the right hand side you can see a double, so if we have people that are a bit anxious on being on their own in a kayak, one of the guides will go with them. It's a beautiful calm lake. If we get a little bit of wind, then we hug the shore sides. It is actually weather dependent. We get the opportunity on a free afternoon to kayak at the Lake Meraki Lodge as well, or otherwise do a hike. We have on our scheduled kayaking there, we wear life jackets for safety. I think this is where the waterproof pants are important. So often when you're paddling, you're dripping water into the boat, so it's good to have your waterproof pants on that day. We do put you into the boats on the shore, so you're not going to get wet feet, and then we pull you back out. If you want to bring waterproof sandals, they're more useful actually when we're doing a hike to see the penguins over at Lake Meraki. We do have to cross some little river crossings there. If they're open, waterproof sandals, you can get a little bit of gravel into them. Or you can wear socks and just dry them out afterwards if you've got open waterproof sandals. So we've got a staggering 80% of plant life and 70% of animal life that's entirely unique to New Zealand. Here we have the tuatara, which is an ancient reptile. We get to see this on the west coast. These are all on offshore islands because otherwise they wouldn't survive today with the predators. So we have a up close and personal experience with these on the west coast, and the North Island kiwi is also at the kiwi encounter there. The kiwi is very unique. If you look at that long beak, it actually has the shortest beak in the world. The little nostril is right at the end of the beak. They have poor eyesight and they have an excellent smell. So they're sniffing for the bugs in the ground with that long beak and bearing the beak all the way up to try and find bugs. They also are unique type of bird because they don't have aerated legs. They have marrow in their legs, which makes them quite heavy. They have a little tiny inferior wing, but can't fly because they're quite a heavy bird. And they use that little wing to tuck their beak under when they're resting. Nocturnal, of course. So we see them also on Stewart Island, 2 opportunities down there. Beautiful little bird with a piercing call and a unique experience. Most New Zealanders have not seen kiwi in the wild, and we get the opportunity twice to do this in the wild and then in the kiwi encounter on the west coast. So on the Otago Peninsula, this is the yellow-eyed penguin on the first top slide on the left. This is the rarest penguin in the world. They are really struggling. They nest around our eastern coastline and down onto Stewart Island in the forests. They're quite private birds. They don't like to look at each other. So when they're quite unsocial, except when they're mating. This yellow eye and yellow feathers go across unless they're juvenile. In the first year, they have a grey eye and the yellow feathers aren't there. So we go to a place called Penguin Place, where we do quite a lot of walking down a number of steps and into tunnels where we're hidden from them. It is because they're rare, we can't guarantee seeing them, but we look for them here and coming in back to feed their babies. And we also look for them on Stewart Island where they nest. This is where the rehab centre is. So a lot of them, the youngsters are starving, so they can get quite a lot of them in the rehab centre. And also where we've often had ones that are sick, like the yellow crested and the snared penguins in there as well. The little blue penguin is all around New Zealand. We get to see them rafting on our private collegiate trip on Stewart Island, another private boat, and also on the Otago Peninsula. This is the Fiordland crested penguin beside that we may see, and the snares we may see in the rehab centre. The northern albatross, the only nesting site where on the mainland where you can get to see them. This is quite spectacular. We go out to look at where they nest on the peninsula headlands and watch them flying. There's also numerous shags. That's their little Otago shag, where we have the Fovo shag, which is similar with the pink feet in Stewart Island that we look for on our collegiate trip. The royal spoonbill we look for as we go out the peninsula, and the kingfisher, the pied stilt, and these paradise ducks. You can see their little babies in the background there that are so cute. They're little brown and white striped ducks. It take about 6 weeks before you start seeing whether they're going to be female with the white head or male with a darker head. Also nesting out at the peninsula where we're looking for the albatross, you'll see these gulls and maybe the Hector dolphin. The Hector dolphin is the rarest dolphin in the world, only found in New Zealand. The Hector's found around our South Island coastline, so we'll look for them again on the west coast. They are beautiful little dolphins. You can see the round dorsal fin there. Smaller dolphins in the than the dusky that we may see in Fiordland and the bottlenose. These guys don't like to be far offshore. They're shallow feeders, so they're only about half a mile, no more than 5 miles offshore. And the little babies are about a foot long. They're just so adorable. We will look for them on this peninsula, and as we travel up the Catlins to Stewart Island, we'll do a beach walk looking for them. There is a subspecies which is in the North Island western coastline where there's only 54 of them left, and they're called the Maui dolphin, and they're a subspecies of the Hector dolphin. Going to Stewart Island, the saddleback. Now this is beautiful wattle bird with a sound that we'll be listening for that sounds like a flat battery. We'll be looking for this on Ulva Island. Ulva Island, they try to keep pest free. Rats can swim there, so there is a lot of pest control on this island to protect these birds. They aren't great flyers. Back when all these birds, before predators arrived, they didn't need to worry about being on the ground. And these guys sort of lost the use of, not totally of using their wings, but they prefer to be on the ground or lower canopy. The weka, some people think they've seen a kiwi when they see this, but you can see the difference. It has a short beak and it's got a little tail at the end there. That's a Stewart Island weka. We will see these on Ulva Island. It is flightless as well as the kiwi is flightless. The kaka, which is a canopy parrot, these guys, this is on the deck where we stay. They are very inquisitive. Not to feed them, they'll look at you, please feed me, but it's something we don't do. They will be in the forest on Ulva Island, plus come and visit us in our accommodations. The kiraroo, or a native New Zealand wood pigeon, beautiful. Cannot hear them, they've got a very soft coo, so we'll be listening for them in the forest. When they fly, they have a noisy wing sound when they're flying. Stunning bird. This is totally protected, as it was. The Maoris used to eat these. They made a good feed and apparently tasty. It's just a stunning bird, and of course it was easy prey because you could see by its white chest. The Maoris could sit underneath the canopy of the trees, hear it flying in, and they could see it very well. The mahua, which is our yellowhead, only found in parts of the South Island. Beautiful little canary-like bird with a canary sound that we'll be listening for on Ulva Island. A little Stewart Island robin. This guy can often come and land on your feet. It'll pick around you knowing that we disturb the bugs in the ground. Very cute little bird. Tomtit, saying this is a male. The female is a brown of colour. And then our beautiful fantail. Kakariki, we have the yellow-crowned and the red-crowned, which the photo is of on Stewart Island. We'll be looking for these. And the little tiny rifleman, which is our smallest bird in New Zealand. Also, the bowbird, beautiful singing voice, we will hear it, and the tui, which has a noisy wingspan as well, with its white passing tuft here on the front. These are both nectar birds. You can tell by their little curved beaks. Our pelagic trip, we'll be looking for the brown skewer, the Fovo shag, which I mentioned. There is the Otago shag, which is similar with the pink feet. The pied shag, we'll go to nesting sites on our pelagic trip. And then the albatross. The most we'll see is this white-capped mollymawk, which is the lesser of the albatross. On the Dunedin Peninsula, we're seeing the greater albatross, which was the northern. Sometimes, if we're very lucky, we'll see the wandering and the southern albatross on our pelagic trip on Stewart Island. White-fronted terns, and then the hooker sea lion. Of the 5 sea lions in the world, the hooker is the rarest. This is a little female with a buff colour on the back of the male, which can be 900 pounds, and the female about 500 pounds. These guys like the sand dunes, so we'll be looking for them on sandy beaches and in the water. on our pelagic trip, and our New Zealand fur seals on the rocky shorelines. Now the fur seal is much smaller. You can see it has a more pointed nose and the long whiskers on its face. The males can get up to about 500 pounds. After we leave Stewart Island, we head towards Te Anau and we visit the wildlife centre there. This takahe, they thought was extinct for about 50 years and rediscovered in 1948 by a local doctor from Invercargill who was hiking in the mountains. There's only about 400 of them left in a sanctuary over the back of Lake Te Anau. We go in and see and hear all about them. It's when we're in Te Anau at a wildlife park. It is a beautiful bird. It has got this massive beak, as it has to have a strong beak to pick under the tussocks to get at its food. It is flightless, whereas beside it, the pukeko, which is a relative, we will see all over New Zealand, out in the swamp areas. It can fly, and it has about 8 babies compared with the takahe only laying maybe 2 eggs. So it is not endangered, the pukeko, but has the beautiful same colorings. We're into Milford. We'll be looking for the bottlenose. I have seen the dusky in there as well, plus this very intelligent bird, the kea, which has the intelligence of a 4-year-old. They work together to figure out how to get food out of rubbish bins, etc. This little one here has a yellow nostril area, which means it's a juvenile, and these beautiful orange underwings, which you see when they're flying. We'll be looking for them in Milford. They live in the mountains. They will try and eat the rubber on our vans. They can destroy your van. We had an excellent ad years ago where the car was left up in the mountains, and it was an insurance ad, and they came back to the windscreen wipers off, the rubbers around the tires all picked holes at. They are very naughty and just doing it for fun. We'll also look again on the west coast when we're up in the mountains on the west coast in Franz Josef area. This is the buff weka when we head to Wanaka, and we're out on Mohuha Island. This is the little buff weka that we'll be looking for, the New Zealand falcon, which is our only bird of prey, which is struggling and very endangered. You can see this is banded. They are very important little birds that we're trying to save. The great crested grebe we'll be looking for on Lake Wanaka. You can see the little babies tucked on the back there. These are quite rare in New Zealand as well, and we'll be looking for them on Lake Meraki and Arthur's Pass, Pearson as well. This is the little nesting box on Lake Wanaka that a local retired professor has provided, because these guys have got their legs at the back of their body, so they can't walk on land, and they nest in the trees, willow trees along the side of the lake. Jet boats and everything like that have swamped their nests. So at Lake Wanaka, this guy's set up these nesting boxes. So where we get on the boat to go out to Moahu Island, we will see these little nesting boxes. Now, the white heron, this is a photograph I took at Lake Meraki. Near Lake Meraki is the only nesting site in New Zealand, where there's about 50 pairs of birds nest. And when they finish nesting, they fly to other areas. And this bird made itself a resident there for a period of time. And I got that beautiful photograph of it right across from the lodge on the river. Black-fronted terns, we'll be looking for those, actually going into Milford as well. They love to be in braided river areas, and sometimes we also see them on the coastline. The banded dotterel, these guys are quite rare as well. We'll be looking for them at when we're at Arthur's Pass, as well as on the coast, the west coast. Spur-winged plover, these guys are out in the fields, very aggressive. they've got a nasty spur under their wing, so we don't try and get close to them. And we'll be looking for those, particularly around Arthur's Pass in the fields. Now, this bird, they are extinct in the South Island, so this reward is out if anybody finds one. These birds will be seen on the North Island. It's got a blue wattle, so the North Island ones are doing okay. South Island, they're actually extinct, and I've never seen one, so be very lucky to find that on our trip. But the pre-trip in the North Island, you'll get to see the blue wattled one. So we get to the North Island, the pre-trip. It's 4 days, starting in Auckland. It's an hour's drive down to the Miranda seabird coastline. So this is where you get to see a lot of these migratory seabirds that we don't get to see on the South Island. And you have a wildlife experience there with scopes. And this is on the way to the Coromandel, where there'll be a hike on the Coromandel. The other thing about the North Island trip, you get a lot of Maori culture. It's around Rotorua, where they love the warmth, the hot pools and all that type of things, where they settled. Paula's family is actually, her father's from that area. So there's a few unique situations that you're going to experience there due to her connections. John Richer, who's the expedition leader, has been doing tours on the Coromandel and around that area for a number of years. He's got a Master of Science degrees in it with honours in Parks, Recreation and Tourism, and he was a former Department of Conservation park ranger. He's travelled extensively around the world, including working as a park ranger and a firefighter in the United States Forest Service, and a senior park ranger in Great Britain. He's an interesting guy. He's got a wide interest in New Zealand and its history, and he's passionate about his area. So he's a pretty good leader up there as well. We have a pretty good fun time with him. So the tour starts in the vibrant city of Auckland. You have the pre-night there. John picks you up the next morning, and as I said, you head down to the Miranda coastline. It's about an hour's journey, and there's lots of stops and things on the way. The Coromandel Peninsula itself is a treasure trove of history, with its intriguing gold mining past and volcanic mountain ranges and lush rainforests. It's a pristine environment, and it's a diverse native flora and fauna area. It's an easy 2-hour walk through the nature on forgotten paths of an old town, easy walking flat. It's about 3/4 of a mile long, and there'll be other opportunities to take short walks with him. Then the next, after a night down on the Coromandel Peninsula, there is 2 nights in Rotorua, and that's where there's the opportunity to visit historic Maori village, and you can see them here doing their haka dance. Also the thermal areas you'll visit, and out to a local, a little island, which there's no other tour operators can go out there actually. It's due to Paula's connections with her family up there that you can go to Makua Island, where you'll see unique bird life as well. These are the Miranda wading birds, plus the last 2 slides, the North Island Kokaku and the North Island Saddleback, which is slightly larger, which is on the little island that you'll go out to in Rotorua. Okay, so I'm going to pass over to Paula, and she's just going to read you a little Maori proverb here.
Ko te manu e kai ana I te miro nōna te ngahere. Ko te manu e kai ana I te mātauranga nōna te ao. The bird that consumes the meadowberry owns the forest. The bird that consumes knowledge owns the world.
That's its little saying on the Maori to finish off. So we'll go to any questions that you would like to ask.
Thank you so much, Judy and Paula. That was fabulous. I want to go. You can sign me up now. There's lots of questions, and we'll start with a few about birds. Is there a field guide that you would recommend for the South Island?
I have, if you can get it over there, I have an incredible book which is called The Hand Guide to the Birds of New Zealand. It's Hugh Robertson and Barry Heather. I could send this to you, but that is my go-to. It's fabulous. The Hand Guide to the Birds of New Zealand, Hugh Robertson and Barry Heather.
That sounds great. Thank you so much. How is the fjord land penguin different from the rockhopper?
Okay, so the rockhopper, so that they look very similar. The rockhopper is actually on an island that we actually don't get to see. So similar size, similar looking, but we don't actually get to see the rockhopper.
Okay. How is the New Zealand fur seal different from the Antarctic fur seal?
That's a question. Okay. New Zealand fur, I suppose, is only around New Zealand. The Antarctic, I think its babies are definitely different looking. They're whitish color looking. They could be similar in size. Yeah. Then the New Zealand ones just around. Yes, sorry. They're often called ice seals because they spend their life down there. So we definitely don't get to see them. Maybe similar in size. And they're also, we don't get that white look either. Okay.
Interesting. Okay. And is there any chance of seeing the aurora while these trips are being offered?
Stewart Island is known as Rakiora, the glowing skies. So there is an observation when I do my night walk down there, the extra night, the people, it's optional. We go to Observation Rock, particularly to look for that. So yes, and there are also, when we're up the west coast, we do a night walk there, a scheduled night walk to see the glowworms and see the night sky. And you may see that in the distance from there as well. Just all depends on conditions.
Oh, great. Okay. And will you have a spotting scope along on the trip?
The spotting scope is at the Miranda. We don't have on the main tour.
Okay.
The Miranda BirdLife, they do.
And one more, I think we have time for one more. Can you bring wrapped food into the country, such as granola bars?
Yes, so what you do with that, you declare it. If it's wrapped and not opened, some of the foods you can get in, but not cheeses and meats and things like that. But if it's sealed and hasn't been opened, you just have to declare.
Okay.
It depends. They may take it off you, but some foods can get in if it's sealed and not been opened. But no fruit, vegetables, meats, cheeses. Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, that's the last question we have time for today. So I'll hand it back. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, what I recommend with that is you just declare, even though I've cleaned my boots, when I come back, I've done tours in Australia as well. And when I always clean my boots, but I always have them on the top of my bag and I declare them and they have a look, and often it can get you through more quickly. and they have a look and you're on your way. It's just, we don't want any seeds or anything like that to get into our, flora and fauna here. So we are very cautious, and just declare, and then they'll have a look and you'll be safe. But if you don't declare and they find something, $400 fine.
Sounds good. Better be safe than sorry there. Well, that's the last question we have time for, so I'm going to turn it back to you for closing comments.
Well, very, very excited about sharing this part. I mean, we love our country. We have loads of fun. It is a very fun tour. And it does cater, we cater for everybody's needs. If you've got dietaries, please let us know well in advance and we can cater for that. We also, we've just got a fabulous program that's finishing in New Zealand at the moment. The World Wildlife Fund is pretty strong here. And we're a little family run company. We've actually adopted a penguin. And NatHab also puts money into a charity fund down called SIRCET, which is South Island Community Environment Trust on Stewart Island. So the World Wildlife here is pretty important, and we're pretty, well, I just love it that Natural Habitat is so involved with them. And we talk about that on our trip through, pointing out areas which they are involved in and the animals they're involved in. So there's a lot of information comes out on these tours. It's very hard to sort of give it all on a speech like this, but it's an incredible country. You will love it, and people are friendly, having fun. It's a very easy country, very relaxed.
Well, thank you again, and I want to thank everybody who tuned in today. Please join us again tomorrow for our next Daily Dose of Nature. You can check out this week's lineup, including registration links, on our website at nathab.com/webinars. We did record today's presentation, and we will have the replay available on our website soon. With that, I'll conclude the webinar. Have a wonderful day, everyone.
Kia ora.